breaker. Taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop. It's like.
Hello, and welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fan-atical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, right here in downtown Danbury, Connecticut, Comcast Cable Channel 23. Yes, it is live once again, 2 weeks in a row we make it live. We're back on a roll, back on a rhythm. It is October 11th, in case you were wondering. We're here from 6 to 6:30, talking sports with you. The phone lines will be open, of course, 203-792-4101 is that number. We got some calls last week.
Yes, we got two. That was great.
Maybe we'll get a couple more this week. You know, usually everybody likes to let me yap away, but last week they all chimed in. We accept those kind of calls, and we'll take more of them if you want to call. So 203-792-4101 is the number, and we will be getting to all things sports. Let's say hello to my right-hand man, Mr. Bob Broad Jr.
How are you, Scott?
I'm doing good, Bob. How you doing?
I'm fine.
Enjoy that nice chilly fall weather out there?
Saturday, we're supposed to have frost.
Oh, man. I cleaned up my vegetable garden this weekend. I think it's all done. We still got a few things going, but it might be it if we get a frost. Could be done with that. Of course, Bob's show, Spotlight On, is on Tuesday nights at 9. And,
next week, we won't be on Tuesday night at 9. We'll be on Wednesday at 8 o'clock for a Southern New York Racing Association special.
Oh, big
for
special.
An hour.
All right, there you go. And what about your re-airing of your show Wednesday at 12? How can you re-air before
I might have something else on. I might have something else on Wednesday at noon.
I don't know how that's going to work for you, Bob.
We'll see what comes up.
All right. And in the control room, running things one-man show tonight, Mr. Mike Toohey. Of course, his show Expose Cinema is on Friday nights at 10 and Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. So that's all the news that we need to get to with that. All right, let's talk Major League Baseball. Playoffs are firmly underway. I want to go all the way back because we haven't been here since last week. I want to just touch quickly on the one-game playoffs because it was the first year with the new format.
Right.
And it didn't work out very well for, I know, one of your favorite teams probably, the Atlanta Braves.
Oh, yes. I was, as a matter of fact, I was at the bowling alley watching that.
Yeah, were you enjoying
fiasco.
Chipper Jones throwing away his last chance at glory, committing a huge error early in that game. The Braves committed 3 errors in that game, and then the umpires committed a complete blunder.
I mean, how do you call
an infield fly?
Way out in the middle of nowhere.
75 feet the ball was out into the outfield. They call infield fly rule, which basically ended the game as the Braves were trying to rally in the 8th, and that put an end to that. And the Braves fans, I mean,
they were
not known for their passion.
But they were very adamant about throwing everything.
Took place, and they threw everything they had. And it was dangerous because people close to the field were getting hit from things being thrown higher up.
They had to bring everybody off the field because everything was getting thrown at them.
It was a big mess down there in Atlanta. So they lose. St. Louis, the defending champs, they advanced to play the Nationals. And in the other one-game playoffs, it was Texas.
Yes.
I mean, imagine this, Bob. You're in first place for about, 172 days straight.
Yes.
In the last day of the season,
it comes down to a one-game playoff, you lose.
Well, you lose on the last day of the regular season to Oakland to lose the division and be forced into the one-game playoff. Then you lose that one-game playoff, and your season's over after you were in first place all year long. But I had it called all year. I said Texas was not going back to the World Series this year just based on percentages. I mean, they went 2 straight years.
Yeah.
They suffered the terrible loss in the World Series last year. I think they're going to be, stewing over that for some time to come. They had that World Series won twice, 1 strike away. They were against the Cardinals in that series in Game 6, and they blew it, and then they lost Game 7, and now I think Texas fans are going to have to deal with that for quite some time because you just can't ever figure out when you're going to get that magic and get everything back to go and repeat and head back to the World Series. And they had their chance 2 years in a row. Yes. First year was a little bit of a surprise. Last year, not so much, and then they blew it. Now, big trouble for Texas down there. So they lose to Baltimore. And we'll get to the Orioles and the Yankees in a second. I know everybody wants to talk about that.
But how about the Giants game?
But we do want to talk about National League because one series is over. It happened this afternoon. San Francisco, after falling behind 2-0, losing the first 2 games at home in San Francisco, to the Big Red Machine, who hadn't won a playoff game, let alone a series, in 17 years. They win the first 2 games after they lose their ace, Johnny Cueto, in the first inning with back spasms in Game 1. They have to patchwork this game together with their bullpen. They pulled Game 2 starter into that game, and he did about 5 innings worth of work, and they win Game 1. Then old friend Bronson Arroyo comes up with a gem in Game 2, and they score a bunch of runs, and they shut out San Fran, head back to Cincinnati with a 2-0 lead, and they get 3 games at home, and they lose all 3.
Yeah.
Scott Rowland commits an error in the 10th inning of one of those games to allow San Fran to extend the series, and then today, a big grand slam by Buster Posey leads to a 6-run. I think it was the 5th inning. They scored 6 runs, and they held on to win 6-4 as Cincinnati had the tying runs on base in the 6th inning, the 7th inning, the 8th inning, and the 9th inning. But they could not rally all the way. They came back from 6-0 to make it 6-3, and then 6-4. They scored a run in the 9th, but they lose. Unbelievable. Dusty Baker against his old team, San Francisco. He goes there and wins the first 2 games. He's got to be feeling pretty good against his old team. Oh, he's feeling terrible right now as they lose. San Fran advances to the NLCS, but who will they play? Right now we have an update.
It's 1-1 still.
1-1 as we started the show, bottom of the 6th. The Nationals, Cincinnati and the Nationals were the 2 best teams record-wise in the National League, and they had the best records in all of baseball for all of the season. The Nationals, start to finish, were the most consistent team. They finished with the best overall record. Cincinnati was a game behind. These 2 teams were the best teams in the National League all year. Now, Washington finds themselves down 2-1. They're finally getting a good starting pitching performance because their starting pitching has been poor. They're dealing with the whole Strasburg Express being shut down. What's been the fallout of that? Their ace, who they're resting his arm because he's young. He came off Tommy John surgery. They didn't want to let him go over all these innings. So it's been a big situation down there in D.C. as they're all freaking out. But they're 1-1 with the Cardinals, and your old buddy Carlos Beltran
is
putting on a show for St. Louis, saying, who's that guy they lost that went to Anaheim?
Somebody named Pujols, wasn't
Pujols, who's that? Who's that guy? Carlos Beltran filling in and providing the power surge for the Cardinals. The Redbirds against D.C. as the Nationals, first time they've been, Washington's had a playoff team in 30, 40, 50 years going back to the old...
since back to your Washington Senator days.
Yeah, Senator days. So it's been a while for them, and they're stressed out big time. And how about Carpenter comes back? He only had 3 starts for the Cardinals this year as he was hurt most of the season, and he pitches a shutout yesterday. Unbelievable. So that's the National League story. Let's move quickly to the American League. And once again, the Bronx Bummers bailed out by Ibanez. What is going on here?
2 home runs.
Unbelievable. This guy has been a wash-up. The guy, how old is he, Bob?
He's old.
They pick him up off the scrap heap. He was in Philly for the last few years when they were trying to win multiple World Series. I think he probably was there for the one they did win.
Right.
But they were done with him. The Yankees pick him up. He bets $220 on the season, something or like that. He was 0 for everything in the whole month of August. Looked like he was not even going to be able to play at all.
But September, October, he comes alive.
September, he hits this home run that won a game against Oakland in the extra innings, which was a big win for the Yankees. Then we saw last week when they were holding off Baltimore and trying to win the division, he hits the pinch hit homer in the 9th against the Red Sox. Last night, they pinch hit for Payrod, the $700 million man.
Yeah, who's been dropped to 5th in
Payrod looking more like K-Rod as he's striking out every at-bat, it seems like. They're losing 2-1 to the Orioles, looking to go up 2-1 in this series. And here comes Ibanez off the bench. K-Rod is on the bench in the 9th inning, down 1 run, 2-1 with 1 out, and Ibanez hits one out as Johnson of the 51 saves throws one right down the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, what is with these relievers, Bob? Why do you throw a ball down the middle of the plate when you cannot give up a home run? It's unbelievable. Oh my goodness. So the Orioles now have to recover from this meltdown, and they need to score runs.
Yeah.
2 runs in the first game, 3 runs in the game they won, 2 runs last night, and worst of all, they're not getting any pitch counts up for these Yankee starters. The Yankee starters are going 8 and 9 innings into the 9th inning.
Yeah, we're going to 10, 11,
so
12.
They win in the 12 as Ibanez then comes up and hits another home run in the 12th. First pitch he sees in the 12th to win it 3-2. Unbelievable. Ibanez bailing out the Bronx Bummers again and again and again and again. Phil Hughes gets the start tonight. It's his marquee moment. Will he be able to put himself into Yankee lore forever and get the past Bucks Birds? Or will the Orioles finally come through and score some runs? They finally hit a couple home runs last night, so maybe the power's coming around for them. It's going to be chilly at the stadium tonight.
Yes.
Cold, crisp day here in the Northeast, and the wind was blowing a little bit. It seemed to die down as the day went on. Last night the wind was blowing heavily late in that game. Might have helped Ibanez. Who knows? So it's do or die for Bucks Birds, who have been resilient all year. We saw when the A's, another young spark plug team here, lost that heartbreaker late in the year at Yankee Stadium when Ibanez hit the home run when they were up 4 against them in that extra innings, and they went on to lose. They came back and won the next day. The Orioles need to turn the page and do the same thing and just be resilient and come back tonight and force Game 5, which will be against CC. So the Orioles got a tough task getting out of this series now. It looks good for the Yankees. And then we get this twist here with Joe Girardi, manager's father, passing away.
Yeah.
It was announced today that he passed away, and the media felt...
On Saturday.
Well, first it was announced that he passed away, and it was given to the media that he died today.
Right.
It comes to realize an hour, 2 hours later that he actually passed away on Saturday, which was the day before the series started. So why they decided to hold this information back until tonight, and now it's conflicting reports. We don't know, as we started the show, if Girardi is actually managing tonight. So maybe it's the funeral situation.
I think the
really do not
is
know.
Saturday.
Why all of a sudden in the middle of today's action this gets revealed the way it did and how they revealed it and what Girardi is aiming at with this whole situation. I mean, our condolences to him and his family, but I think it was handled in a strange way. We'll see how that affects. And then the other series, as we wrap up the baseball talk before we get to football, Oakland and Detroit. Unreal here. I mean, Oakland, the Cardiac Kids, we're going to call them now.
Yeah, because they're ready for, they need the...
They lose game 1 and 2 in Detroit. Coco Crisp is in the middle of everything going on. He commits a huge error after he leads off the series with a solo home run to lead off the game against Verlander in game 1, a game they go on to lose as Verlander, who's pitching tonight, by the way, in game 5, had 11 strikeouts. Cruz, they shut him down big time. He did shut down Oakland after that home run to lead off the series Crisp had. Game 2, Crisp commits a huge error in this game, and that leads to Detroit coming back and winning that game. And then in game 3, Crisp steals a home run from Prince Fielder on an incredible catch at the wall where he comes down with it. So he's in the middle of everything again. Last night, they're down to the 9th inning, losing by 2 runs. They rally, tie the game, and then Crisp come through with a game-winning hit for the winning game of the winning hit of that series to force Game 5. Their reward for forcing Game 5, Justin Verlander again tonight. So Verlander's going to try to get this thing done. He's 3-0 against Detroit this year with a .90 ERA. He has shut them down completely. We'll see what he can do tonight as they're playing in Oakland. And the A's have just been resilient all year, so it should be, I would think, a great game late tonight. Maybe they will get to Valverde again. And after Valverde blew it last night, the closer for Detroit, and see what they can do. But I expect an exciting game.
I expect Verlander to go right into the late innings.
I would think so. Verlander, we know, is one of the tops, maybe the best pitcher in baseball.
That one game for like 32 innings? Or 132 pitches.
Right.
Right to the end.
It's going to be tight. I might have to stay up late to watch that game tonight. The last time I stayed up late to watch an Oakland game, it was when they were playing the Red Sox, but they're not near the playoffs right now.
The Beantown
as a matter of fact. That was a while back. Way back. All right, let's move on. We skipped over college football last week. I'm going to get to it real quick because we got to get to the NFL. CSU, they stink once again.
Yeah.
1-5. They fooled everybody by beating the Colorado Buffaloes, the Trust Fundalos, in week 1 of that season and have lost 5 straight. They stink. UConn continues their trend, win-loss, as they get blacked out in Rutgers down there this weekend in their first Big East game of the season. It was a blackout. Rutgers wearing all black, getting the fans to wear black to the game. And UConn should look at Rutgers' offensive attack because they had balance, running, passing, good mix of everything, and UConn is really one-dimensional. They either go to like this, the wildcat formation on a drive, or they try to just run it on a drive, or they just drop back and pass on first down and pass every down on a drive. They do not mix and match the offense. I'm really not pleased with the play calling at all. The defense wore down. They played pretty well considering the offense was horrible, but they did wear down as Rutgers took control in the second half. They get to play Temple, who they've been playing pretty much every year. Temple is now officially a Big East member this season, at least for football.
Yeah,
and they are 1-0.
Basketball starts soon, right?
I don't know. I'm not sure what the standing is for them as far as joining the Big East in all sports. Right now, they're in for football, and they are 1-0 and 2-2 overall. 1-0 in the Big East. They beat South Florida this past weekend, 37-28. They did lose to Maryland, and they also lost to Penn State. We know UConn beat Maryland, so we'll see what happens with this game at the Rent, which I'm renaming the Wrench.
The Wrench.
I think the new nickname should be the Wrench. I'm starting a grassroots movement to call it the Wrench. It's Wrenchester Field. I'm calling it the Wrench, not the Rent. You think we can get that going, Bob?
I think so.
All right, we're calling it the Wrench.
Hey, let's just, for a bad point, but they're still at it.
Westcon?
Westcon. 0-25. The record's still going.
The record stands. They have not won a game. 0-25.
0-25.
All right,
4 years they haven't won a game.
They're going to just keep that record going.
And they're playing the worst team in the league, but worse than Westcon. And they're playing home
Maybe they
on Saturday, so we'll see what happens there.
We're going to have to tune in for that. All right, we got to keep moving. Interesting stuff going on in college football. I mentioned Penn State. They did knock off the Big Ten's final team, Northwestern, this weekend. Big Ten is done as far as contention in the bowl championship series. Right here, we're looking at Florida State, another team that went down. Shocking. Actually, last week when I was going to talk college football, but we got a phone call. I remind you, the number 203-792-4101. We will still accept calls if you want. I was mentioning that Florida State may be for real. At least their offense sure looked like it. Not so much, as they melt down in the second half against NC State this weekend, and they lose. So really the ACC is done as far as any contention for the national title. Miami got crushed by Notre Dame, who is sticking in the mix. Ranked number 7, undefeated, Bob.
Yeah.
Other teams doing very well right now. We know, of course, about Bama and all their prowess. But in the SEC, the other teams moving up the ladder as LSU moves down the ladder. South Carolina, the old ball coach, getting it done down there in South Carolina. Spurrier and his South Carolina Gamecocks come up with a huge pounding of Georgia this past weekend. Florida knocked off LSU, so LSU is out of the mix. South Carolina ranked number 3. Florida number 4. South Carolina plays at LSU this weekend. I believe they're home for Florida the following week. So South Carolina's season is going to either be made or broken
Yes,
in the next 2 weeks. I like what they're doing. They're playing very well. I always put my faith in the old ball coach, Steve Spurrier. We'll see what he does. Florida, interestingly enough, back in the mix, first time since Tebow Mania. We'll get to him. West Virginia not only has the Heisman frontrunner, but they are also moving up and maybe the only chance for the Big 12. Ranked number 5, Geno Smith, back-to-back weeks, 70-63. Did you see the score against Baylor 2 weeks ago? And then they backed that up with a big win at Texas this past weekend. So they look like they're for real. Of course, the Big 12 doesn't play any defense whatsoever. The other team in the Big 12, Kansas State, still undefeated. They're ranked number 6. That's going to be a game to watch. I don't know with these split divisions if they're actually going to play in the regular season or if they'll play in a championship game. Of course, we mentioned Notre Dame ranked number 7. They've beaten Navy, Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, and Miami. They get a real test this weekend against Stanford. We'll see what happens there. But Notre Dame, you have to talk about them. They are undefeated and playing pretty well. And they have a defensive player who's in the Heisman running as well. The other team who is probably the only legitimate threat to Alabama, number 2, Oregon. That's your college football. That's what's going on. NFL, Bob, let's move it along.
What do you think of the big Giants game this past weekend?
We're going to get to your Giants. AFC first. The Patriots in the game of the week against the Broncos. They renewed their rivalry against old friend Peyton Manning, and they pounded them basically. A couple turnovers late made this game a little bit closer than what it was, but they really had full control of this game. Sacks, turnovers, forced fumbles, interceptions. The defense did a great job. Back-to-back weeks for a rusher going over 100 yards, which I believe I heard was the first time for the Patriots they had back-to-back rushers over 100 yards since 1978, Bob.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Ridley is playing well, and they got the other running back doing well as well. So they have a two-headed monster now. And actually, think about this, Bob. They have rushed the ball more times this year than they have thrown the ball.
Oh.
They have gone to the balanced attack, and it is working. We'll see what happens as they go out to Seattle this weekend. First time Brady has played in Seattle. The last time they played there was 2008 when he was injured, and he missed that season. So it'll be his first time dealing with that 12th man out there, and Seattle is still playing well, and their defense certainly has been causing some problems. So Patriots looking good now, 3-2. We'll see what happens. The Jets.
Are we going to see Tebow
they go for trickeration and Tebow Nation, but they hung tough against the Texans. Not so much. They couldn't pull it off. An onside kick they didn't recover. They had a kick return for a touchdown. They had a fake punt that led to a first down. It all added up to another loss as they lose to the Texans, but they did hang tough, and they made this game much closer than what most people would think.
But it just went downhill after this.
Now they get to face Indianapolis, who had the shocker of the weekend.
Yes, they did.
As they rallied from being down 21-6 at home against Green Bay, and they win in the second half 30-27.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Andrew Luck with his coming out party, and they rallied big time.
What is going on with Green Bay? They're going
I don't know. They are 2-3 now, not looking good at all. Interesting stuff going on. Let's stick in the AFC real quick. The Dolphins and the Bills, 2-3. We mentioned the Dolphins had lost 2 in a row in overtime on last week's show. They did get a win this week as they knocked off Cincinnati, who had looked real good before this little stumble they had against the Dolphins. So good for the Dolphins. They are now 2-3. Bills 2-3. Ravens, unimpressive, beating the Chiefs 9-6. They didn't score a touchdown.
Right.
You wonder what's going on with them. But they are 4-1, so we'll see. And they have a big game this weekend. Dallas at Baltimore. We'll see what happens with that. We mentioned Cincinnati lost their 3-2. The Steelers got themselves righted as they beat the Eagles in the last-second field goal. They turned the tables on the Eagles.
That was a good game.
It was a very good game. Vic rallied them as they went right down the field to take the lead, but they gave them too much time. The Steelers moved down and did to the Eagles what they've done to everybody else. Kick a field goal in the final minutes, or score in the final minutes to win. Dallas had the bye week. They're 2-2 actually. They're home. They're not in this division. What am I talking about? But they're playing the Ravens. That's why I mentioned it. All right, whatever. Texans still 5-0. The Colts moving back into the mix at 2-2 with their stunner. Out west, it's the Chargers who get back-to-back weeks in prime time. They lose to the Saints. The Saints finally get a win, but so they fall to 3-2. They lost that game on Sunday night, and then they get to come back and play at home on Monday night. Does the nation really want to see the Chargers in primetime two weeks in a row?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But Denver's in the mix there as well. So that's what's going on in the AFC. Your Giants fell behind to the Browns, who haven't got a win, and then they blinked their eyes, and all of a sudden they were up big, and they pulled away and pounded the Browns. So they've beaten handily the Panthers, the Bucks. The Bucks and the Browns they had to come back from, but then they eventually got the offense really clicked and going good. And the Browns now, but they looked terrible against Philly and Dallas, and they get to go out to San Fran. Last year, of course, we know they had the two great games, the final one being the AFC Championship game. Hey, I don't know. They haven't looked good against good teams. They've looked good against bad teams. So I'm not sure what to say about them.
How they do this weekend.
The Redskins, RG3 finally got concussed as he's been running around. The Falcons pulled away and got a late win. They didn't look that great against Washington, but they did come away with the win. We'll see if RG3 can come back and play this weekend. Not sure. Of course, the Vikes remain a surprise. Minnesota 4-1. They crushed. Absolutely crushed. Is it the Purple People Eaters back?
Maybe.
The defense is playing great, Bob. Unbelievable. 4-1, and they're playing Washington. They might catch Washington in D.C. without RG3. We'll see. And the Bears looking very good.
Yes.
4-1. Last we saw them. Actually, no, this weekend they put a smackdown on Jacksonville as well. The Bears have a bye this week. Packers 2-3. Lions had the bye last week. They are 1-3 at the Eagles. That's going to be a good game, I think. Eagles have played well at home. The Lions coming off the bye. They need a win or else they're in big trouble. Falcons 5-0. The rest of that division, nothing to speak about at all. The NFC West remains very competitive, very good. The Cards lost that Thursday night game to the Rams, who look much improved under Steve Fisher. Defensively, very good. So the Cards are 4-1, San Fran 4-1. The Rams lose their top wide receiver, Amendola, in that game, but they moved to 3-2. Seattle 3-2. So it's going to be interesting to keep our eye on the NFC West, looking very tough. All those teams playing very good defense. We'll see what happens. Tonight's game, Pittsburgh at Tennessee. Maybe Pittsburgh goes above 500. What do you got, Bob?
Last word.
Wrap it up.
Is 2 weeks from tonight, Whalers start the season against Williamsport.
2 weeks from tonight, and here we have it right here.
So that'll be
Thursday, October 25th, 7:35 p.m. against Williamsport.
Yes.
What's with the schedule, Bob? It doesn't say home or away.
They're all home games.
These are all the home games?
Yes.
Oh, yes, it says right there if you read further. I got you. All right, Whalers back in action in 2 weeks. So we will be talking local hockey, but since the NHL continues to be on strike. I do believe we are out of time.
We're out of time.
All right, we've got 2 weeks in a row. We're going to go for 3 next week, and we will see you then.